Hey, Shayna. Hope you guys can't hear that too much. Kicking Geese is live. I didn't know. So, let me clear my throat directly into the mic. That won't be annoying at all. Chat, where's my chat? Where is my chat? There it is. Hey! Alright, let's scroll up, scroll up, scroll up. Hello, Rocky! Hello, Common Sense! Hello, Renata! Shayna! Ultramarine 2! Hey, Midori Gale! Hello, Catsim! Chicken! Did I say cat whisper? Too many cats. I mean, that's not really a thing, but here we are. Don't forget the content creators representing their opinion based on observation and history research. Please do not dox and harass. Yeah, don't dox people. Don't do that. See, Kim knows all these things that I don't know. I am having a wonderful day. You just finished. Wow, good job, Catsons. I haven't finished it yet. Just, I am listening. I'm listening to the live, and she goes, "Why don't you have time to eat?" Like, God bless you. Only halfway through myself. I am, as you can see, 1 hour into it, which is good because that's probably all we're gonna get through today. So I'm not gonna have to get out ahead of myself. So, which is good because Colin just posted this today. So I probably should have waited 24 hours, but it looked fun. But we won't. There is no way in hell we're getting through this whole thing tonight, so we're not even gonna try. If you haven't noticed, I am in my living room, sitting on my couch, which means I'm going to be extra fidgety. So, hello Emo, hello Femme-Marie, hello Tangerine, hello Polina, hello SoCal friend. Who else snuck in? Hello Sengi62. What was that, 1.75 speed though? Hello Ruby. I don't know if I'm gonna speed him up. He actually talks at a pretty decent pace, and I'm afraid if I speed him up, he'll be too fast. So, and it sounds like he may have sped up some of the video clips he was using. So again, if I speed him up, he might be too fast for people on the replay. Well, actually, Common Sense. There's 4 pieces from IKEA. It was a really neat set of outdoor furniture. And so we got 4 pieces of it. So technically it's 2 pieces of that zip tied together. And then we got cushions for it. So yeah, it is. He is worth 3 hours, and this is a very good video from what I have watched so far. I just wish he had broken it up specifically so A, be a little easier to get through, but that's a me complaint. And B, he would have had 3 videos to put up on his channel. So it would have just created more content for him to post, and I know that's like the sneaky way to do it, but here we are. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah, camera. I want the camera to quit autofocusing. Taco Bell sounds delicious. Hey, Smug! Hello, Cloak on Cloak. You love when people talk fast, Ruby? Also, I did a Chloe Ting workout this morning for the first time in like a month, and now everything hurts. No, I did it yesterday. That's why today everything hurts. Colin hit every research noting. Tip this forward a little bit. Hopefully you guys can still hear me good. Ooh, ramen with pork belly. Oh, we've got a place here that does ramen. And they've got a... what is it? Szechuan spicy broth to put your ramen in. And oh my god, is it good. But it... okay, it's one of those spices that catches up with you the next day, if you catch my drift. So it's delicious, but you will pay for it. You've been busy for once. Yeah, right. Maybe maybe Anna should watch this so she can learn. Well, that's good, Tangerine. Well, you know, Colin's pretty calm too, so it's not like there's going to be a bunch of like crazy sounds or anything. Not that we ever really do that here. We're not like that here. We're not like that. So how many of my interns and my grad students, how many of you actually did your homework? It is a rainy day. I'm gonna have to turn her off. I'm so sad. But I did get to see all of the reactions, so life is good. Life is good. Right. I don't have to worry about it too much. My partner is not feeling well, so that's why we're out in the living room. Did I already say that? 2/3 of the homework? That's fine. It was a great visual thesis, Kat. I didn't, but I was actually working on my own video. Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Twinkie ate my homework. That's funny. I did not. You did not do your homework? Well. Yeah, we're not, like I said, we're not going to get through all of it. I already know that. So you will have ample opportunity to go through more of it. So, because we probably will do, hey, Hellfire. Wow, I haven't seen you in a minute. Where have you been? So we'll probably get through the first hour, and then we'll probably take the other 2 hours in a few more weeks. So it turned in on time. That is true. You still had 1 minute. Lucy Jane, homework. You're installing your new dishwasher. Well, congrats. I wish I had one of those. Rocky, you're my star pupil. Each and every one of you is. All right. So, I don't know, we've killed about 10 minutes. I have learned some things watching this video, actually. I appreciate it quite a bit. I did not know about the standard of care here, or about this Tobias Bertsch guy, and it does sound like, okay, so here he's gonna talk about Karen Herbst as well. And most fields, especially academic fields, have some kind of internal debate going on, especially about various topics that are important to said field. Like in archaeology, we argue about evolutionary things on the interpretation of one artifact over another, kind of a thing. And theory. We talk about theory a lot. But it's not like a knockout, drag out. It's just like, I disagree kind of a thing. Don't get me wrong, some people are assholes, but damn reviewer number 3. So the fact that Karen Herbst and Tobias Bertsch, they're not at odds, they just don't see eye to eye, that's not a red flag for me or anything. I really haven't gotten, how far have I gotten into this? Yeah. So I got to chapter 7, differential diagnoses. So I don't know. He's got a Dr. Karen Herbst part 2, so I'm sure something juicy's in that section. But I'll get to that before we react again. But I just wanted people to know that, like, and I'm not saying Colin painted it in a way that it made it sound like there was a knockout, drag out going on, but it's just another one of those situations where I just want people to be aware that you can hold two opposing views in your head at the same time, and that's kind of what's going on here. We've got two opposing viewpoints between Herbst and Bertsch, and it doesn't necessarily mean either of them is wrong. It just means as colleagues, they do not agree. And honestly, this is how science gets to a consensus anyway, so. Ew, pug drool. Gross. I don't do dog drool. I don't do baby drool, which is the other reason I don't have kids. We only celebrate Turkey Day because of food. That's pretty much it. I know way too much about actual Thanksgiving. Oh, does she not take criticism well, cloak uncloak? That doesn't surprise me. Tobias funky? I don't get the joke. Sorry, Smug. Yeah, Hillary, they have agreement on the macro, but the micro seems vastly different. Yeah, he talks about the diagnosis standards and how, what he said, it's mostly clinical. Well, it is only clinical because there is no tests for it currently. And Herbst is trying to push the definition a little bit further than it is traditionally placed. So it's just, you know. Yeah, people don't realize in science rigorous debate is essential. Yeah, and rigorous doesn't mean we're at each other's throats. It just means I don't necessarily agree with your interpretation, kind of a thing. They will never leave. I don't get Tobias funky. Okay. You guys are being weird, like you normally are. Alright, let's get started. I do not have him sped up. Do I have control of my screen? I couldn't speed him up if I wanted to, apparently. That's weird. That's so weird. Alright, well, whatever, as long as it plays. Oh, dang it. Thank you, Smug. Bonk. There we go. Gotta love how classical US versus Germany fight. Yeah. Boy, you should go toe-to-toe with a British person. Like, they're like... Some of the worst arguments I've had online have been with British archaeologists. And it's usually around human remains. And it's just like... We will not see eye to eye. Let me just put it that way. Crown of Honor for Gay. Well, like I said earlier, Colin talks fast enough, so. Alright. Oh, there we go. Now I have controls. No, stop it. I wanted to watch from the beginning. Because there is. You are. Sorry. Couldn't even make it 3 seconds in. Go back to what? You were never skinny. I mean, she was a hell of a lot lighter than she was in that picture, but... My partner works with Dutch people. He says the same thing. Look at his hair! I love the purple. No audio from the video. Well, you couldn't hear me being snarky to Amber. Damn it. It's okay, you didn't miss anything. Audio... Where are we at? No, that's my audio. That's your audio. Debate around this fat disorder. All right, Colin, take it again. Back it up, back it up.
It just felt like I was broken, something was wrong, and I was right, something is wrong.
First, it's not like I get to go back, right? A lot of people get to go back because of lipedema. I don't necessarily get to.
It was one of those moments of, I'm not crazy. I knew.
I don't know this girl. Anna annoys the crap out of me because she is such a victim. Like, she's just such a victim. She's not even a participant in her own life, yet she expects a gold fucking star for participation in her life. And that's why she annoys me.
Like, my body wasn't
If it's too loud, let me know.
reacting.
I want to take you all on a journey with me. During quarantine in 2020, like a lot of people, I gained a bunch of weight.
I didn't actually. I actually lost weight. I don't know how I managed it, but I did.
So a couple years ago, I decided to take my health a little more seriously, and I lost about 60 pounds since then.
Damn, go guy.
A lot of my inspiration to do that came from health and weight loss content on YouTube. If you're familiar at all with weight loss and fitness content on YouTube in general, you may know the likes of Amberlynn Reed.
It's like, I know how to lose weight, but I'm not doing any of it.
How long has she had this flippin' shirt? She literally was wearing this shirt during her getting ready for the Billie Eilish concert video, which is the most recent video she dropped. She was wearing this shirt. I thought I had clothes for a long time.
And Anna O'Brien, aka Glitter and Lasers.
Part of the reason I am overweight is
It's because you won't quit eating and put the fork down? Ooh. Or take responsibility for your own health?
because of the drama in my life.
Both social media creators who originally built their audiences by documenting their health journeys. If you go through their extensive back catalogs, you can see that Amberlynn's and Anna's journeys have been going on for over a decade. But since they started, they've actually gained a lot of weight and gotten even unhealthier. These two have garnered a lot of criticism over the years, but not just because of their weight loss attempts, but for a variety of reasons. I think a lot of the criticism for Anna and Amberlynn is justified, but I will be the first to tell you that weight loss is hard.
It is hard. I mean, I am actively on my own journey, and I mean, it sucks.
I don't blame people like Anna or Amberlynn for struggling so much over the years. So many people try weight loss plan after weight loss plan, and when nothing works, they ask themselves, why? Why can't I lose this weight even when I'm trying so hard? Well, since I've been in this weight loss space, I've learned some people, including Anna and Amberlynn.
Okay, I really want his hoodie too, because it looks very cozy. And it's kind of chilly here today.
Have gotten an answer to that question in the form of a diagnosis, a disorder called lipedema. It's a condition that has a reputation for causing weight gain. My exploration of lipedema began at the end of April 2024 when Anna announced on social media that she was—
I fucking hate this video. Look at her just sitting there with that shit eating. I'm an innocent little girl. All of the things that have happened to me in my life, I have no control over. God, I hated that video. She doesn't even say anything in it. There's no words in this video. And yet, here I am.
She was pursuing surgery for her lipedema. I had heard of this condition in passing, but Anna's description of it just sounded odd to me, and it compelled me to research it even further.
So, what is lipedema?
Nothing you're about to tell me.
It's the abnormal buildup of adipose tissue or fat in the legs and arms, and it's special because this fat is not
She loves her own ass.
burnable by the body, which means diet and exercise won't have any effect on it.
Actually, there's been some studies, I don't know if Colin will go into it, but there have been some studies that have shown that with a long enough amount of time, you can burn some, the lipedema, the fat one, you can burn some of that off, but it takes a much longer time than it would to burn normal fat, if that makes sense. Now, this is just a couple studies, so it's not gospel. It may not even be right, but I'm just putting it out there.
Some people familiar with Anna and Amberlynn are skeptical of their lipedema diagnoses. After all, these two are notorious for saying questionable
Yay, he goes into it. Sweet.
things about their weight. When they say they have a medical condition that prevents them from losing weight, a lot of people see that as another excuse to add to the list.
Because most of those things that people are like, oh my god, I have XYZ, I can't lose weight. like the PCOS thing really pisses me off. I got PCOS. I can't lose weight. PCOS only has you gain like 5 pounds. You gain more when you're pregnant. So, what's your excuse again? Anyway.
Eating 2,900 calories makes me gain weight. It does not make me lose weight.
This math here. I have dyscalculia. Just want to put that out there. Even I saw the problems in this math. They do shrink about 20 to 30% of their expanded size with weight and exercise, but they don't go away and tend to attract fluids easy for expansion. Why they ask you to control your sodium, a natural attractor. I mean, yeah, that's the thing though. Like, if we're finding out that the fat cells that you have, those are the same fat cells, whether you're skinny or not. So like, even after I lose, I don't know, 20 pounds and my fat cells and I look skinny, it's just because my fat cells have shrunk, right? So my guess is, if everything is true and correct, with the lipedema fat cells, it sounds like they're just like the first ones to flare up versus like all of my fat. But I can't lose weight because of the dairy ice cream I eat. How dare.
And then people call me a liar, but I would like to explain why. So when I saw the lipedema specialist, she told me, estimation, I have about 150 pounds of lipedema on my body. Large portions of that is on my legs, especially my calves. But that weight is not taken into account when you go into a TDEE calculator.
But it's not just them saying these things. I myself was very suspicious.
Hang on, I cannot stand this microphone being here. I can't see the screen. It's driving me nuts. I'm sorry. Let's see if I can fuck this up more. There we go. Now we're really close together. If I sound kind of distant, that's just because I really needed to set the mic over. So it's not too bad. I see my little thingy there. It's not too bad. I just have to remember not to mumble. See how well that works. There we go. Did Amber lose any weight when she went through weight loss? She lost weight before she was diagnosed. So she thought she was losing weight because she thought she was losing weight. Turns out she was losing weight because she had the big C. YouTube haters. I mean, it's not though. Jessica Simpson. Somebody was like, I forget who it was, but somebody was on my case about not even remembering when Jessica Simpson was considered skinny because I was older than Jessica Simpson. And I'm like, Jessica Simpson's 44. Like, how old do you think I am? That's a new one. But Amber's legs are so bad she loses and regains. She grows more lipedema fat cells. Yeah. The ice cream mention. She didn't do chemo, did she? She just had the surgery, yeah. I still don't believe she ever went back for her. No, that's not true. She did show that document, didn't she? I still don't think she's doing proper post-surgery care, but that's my personal opinion on the matter. If you guys ever want stuff added to the bingo card, whenever you see Curvey Asparagus in here, hit them up because they're the one that maintains the card. I haven't played the card in a while. We should do that next time. Hello, Fandama. You may as well join us.
Of Anna's and Amberlynn's descriptions of lipedema, but I've seen plenty of other patients and even experts insist that weight loss is very difficult or sometimes even impossible when someone has lipedema.
Not everybody has success with diet and exercise.
That's right.
And so if they come to you and you diagnose lipedema, what does that mean?
Well, lipedema is a fat disorder that's commonly confused with obesity, which is much more common. But lipedema is a type of fat accumulation.
See, stage 1, it's almost imperceivable, I guess. But I don't think this is the same person in each picture for many reasons, but one of which being like, I don't know how else to describe it. This is the fat splay. For whatever reason, well, it's because of the pressure of the fat between the legs, so your leg joints don't line up right, and it really fucks up your hips, by the way. But you see that, you see how the first person, like, their legs are mostly straight? Like, your legs are not perfectly straight, but this person's legs are mostly straight. The bigger you get, the more your legs tend to do this, but the knees come in. So instead of doing something like that, your legs go boink, boink, because you're trying to, you should be balancing here. You should be balancing your weight here. But because you have so much, you end up balancing your weight down here, which is actually really hard on your body. So anyway, random shit. We had the homework. Colin is doing a good job. But like I said, I only got through about an hour of it, but we're still. Are the two on the end the same person? I don't believe so. I do not believe these are 3 pictures of the same person. Anna is stage 3, isolated to upper thighs and hips. Yeah, exactly. Like this person here, this person who's stage 3. They don't have the cuffing that they're seeing in stage 2. This is, I assume, a lot like what Anna would look like. I've seen Anna naked enough times, so I know this is what Anna looks like. She doesn't tend to let her belly hang out, but you don't see my mouse on the screen? Oh. Why don't you see my mouse on my screen? I got nothing, sorry. Bye, Vandemma. Hello, Plague Doctor. It's not hard on the body, that is healthy for the body, said no one except these morons. Okay, I was like, wait a minute. If it's a fat disorder, we do know that diet can impact it. Well, for a long time we didn't think it could. When I was heavy, I waddled like a dog. Yeah, exactly, and it hurts. Like, stupid computer. This was back when I was at my heaviest, by the way. I'm not anywhere near there anymore. I noticed one day I was walking like that. Like I was standing and my legs were splaying and I was like, oh no. I was like, oh no, 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 no. So not only did I lose weight, but I started like forcing myself to stand like normal. I don't know if that's actually helpful, but it got me paranoid.
It tends to accumulate in the legs, and it is a type of fat disorder that does not respond to diet and exercise.
But some experts disagree. In fact, experts disagree about most aspects of lipedema. It's true that I started looking into this condition only because Anna and Amberlynn have it, but this video has very little to do with them specifically. To me, the controversy surrounding lipedema has become way more interesting. Also, if you're new to my channel and you're just here to learn about some medical conflict, I may reference these social media creators from time to time, but you don't need to be familiar with them to understand. Also, hi, I'm Colin. Glad to have you here. If you are...
I don't know why it's not capturing my pointer. It should be, but it's not, so fun times. Come on, you can do it.
Familiar with my content, this is going to be quite the departure, but hopefully one you find interesting. If you like my little rabbit trail deep dives, I think you'll have fun with this one. There is going to be a lot of technical, medical language in this video, but I really hope you stick with me because it does get truly wild. But I have to set up a lot of background for you to truly understand why. I say I want to take you on a journey with me because it really was a journey. My only credential is a bachelor's degree in
AKA, I had to suffer through this, so now you do too. Nope. Tab. There we go. There we go. Go, Colin, go.
English, so let that be my disclaimer to you that I am not offering any kind of medical advice. I am simply presenting you with my research and my opinions about that research. I might get some things wrong just due to my own ignorance, and I apologize for that, but I also think I'm going to say some things that are up for debate, and that's kind of the point of this video.
Chapter 1.
Debate.
What is lipedema?
What's his...
Okay, now then. what is lipedema? Well, even that is a point of contention. One basic definition I can give is that lipedema is a disorder which causes the overgrowth of fat on the legs and sometimes the arms, and it's usually associated with pain and easy bruising. This type of fat is more resistant to diet and exercise. There are 5 types.
Well, since you came in late, Brioche, we're actually all going to stare at you as you try to like quietly make your way down the lecture hall to the one chair that no one wants to sit in. And then we're just going to be like, if I can continue, kind of a thing. I've done that one too many times to my professors. You get over it. They look like they're wearing like fashionable, like the way these pictures are done. It looks like a fabric pattern kind of a thing. Ugh. Must tie self in knots. All right, we're good.
Or distributions of lipedema fat that are referred to in 4 stages of severity. If you're familiar at all with lipedema, you may have seen photos like these before. I've watched some other creators in the weight loss space give descriptions of lipedema, and that's usually about where they stop. And I think that's pretty much fine. Usually they're just giving a brief definition to catch the audience up to speed, and when you look up cursory information about lipedema, that's what you find. But the problem is, even that broad description I just gave is full of issues. For practically every word I said, there's a sect of professionals and patients who would disagree, or at least offer qualifiers. And a lot of those opinions would contradict each other. I also want to briefly mention before we
Hey, science. Even in anthropology, there's like, yes, we have this word that we use. Well, what does it mean? Well, who are you asking? That's what that word means. Yes, Brioche, we're all watching you awkwardly try to take your seat. Like, doctor, are you making uncomfortable eye contact with Brioche while they're trying to take their seat? Cracking me up.
To go too much further, what we're talking about here is lipedema, not lymphedema. I know they sound similar, and the conditions can even look similar, but they're 2 different things. Any kind of edema is swelling, usually referring to fluid. The way I remember the difference is that lipids are fats, so lipedema is a fat swelling condition, and lymph is a bodily fluid, so lymphedema is a fluid swelling condition. Some people pronounce lipedema as lipedema just to help differentiate between the two, so both those pronunciations are fine. Whenever I open my mouth, lipedema comes.
No, they are not. Actually, I dare you to make a video pronouncing it. Pick one way, and there will be at least 9 people in your comment section that will correct you. Just letting you know. It doesn't matter which one of those pronunciations you pick. Army crawling. Guys. Oh no. Ah. There we go. Pulling out a slime. This one's Catacombs. Again, from OG Slimes. No one should be shocked by this at all.
Comes out, so I'll try my best to enunciate whenever I mention lymphedema, because unfortunately we're going to have to talk a lot about both. Lipedema kind of seems like it popped up out of nowhere recently, but it was actually first described in 1940 by doctors Edgar Allen and Edgar Hines. But it's kind of flown under the radar until recent years, and I think that's partly because it does get confused with other conditions, like lymphedema, obesity, or chronic venous insufficiency, which can cause blood accumulation in the legs. But I think lipedema has come into the forefront in recent years because of new technology, better research, and frankly, media attention.
It is estimated that more than 17 million people in the United States are currently suffering with lipedema. It strikes thin and overweight individuals, and no amount of diet or exercise can stop it. We spoke with Dr. David Amron, a board-certified...
Look at little baby Amron. You guys are cracking me up. Don't pick on Brioche too much. There, but for the grace of God, go you.
I think there are a few reasons why lipedema has been under-recognized for so long. First of all, it's a pretty rare condition, depending on who you listen to. Second of all, over 99% of lipedema patients are female, and we as a society have a long history of overlooking conditions.
I honestly, truly appreciate that Colin went there with this, because it's true. Research into women's medical conditions is woefully underdone. And when women are studied, it's usually in a very biased way. So it's like, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't kind of thing. Which could also be why this lymphedema has just never really been studied until recently. And the only reason, in my opinion, the only real reason it's getting studied now is because money can be made off of it now, right? Up until then, nobody cared because it really only affected women. So, and I like that Colin kind of like hammers on this a few times, because he easily could have just skipped it, right? But I appreciate it.
That primarily affect women. Third of all,
is Anna's doctor, yes.
Let's be real, it sounds kind of questionable, doesn't it? There are some doctors who don't even believe lipedema exists, and on its face, I can kind of understand why. When a patient says, I eat right and exercise, but I can't lose this weight, I think a lot of doctors would be skeptical. It would take a lot of trust that the patient was accurately reporting their weight loss attempts, because human beings are terrible at recording these things. Watch an episode of Secret Eaters and you'll see that in action.
It's low-calorie cereal, isn't it?
This episode's so famous. I think I've seen the entire series of Secret Eaters, and I really wish they would do either another series, like another season, or if they'd come here to the States. Squish. Scammers are like, did we miss a vulnerable population? Exactly.
All healthy, good for you, so the more the merrier, I think.
Well, shall we find out? So let me introduce you to our expert dietitian, Lynn Garton. Hi, Murray, how you doing?
Nice to meet you.
That bowl of cereal there contains 2,500 calories. So you've had your calorie intake before you've even got out of the door.
I would never ever have believed that.
That being said, there are some patients for whom it seems very obvious they have lipedema. For patients who are a healthy weight or even underweight.
Sorry, what? You found out yesterday that endometriosis affects all the organs around it. Yes, I knew that. Because I have it. A lady on the radio had her bowels and bladder removed because she had to wait years for the hysterectomy? Jesus criminy. Ha.
They can have a thin torso with disproportionately large limbs. It's hard to look at a patient like this and say, you just need to diet and exercise.
Right.
There's clearly something else going on. But because lipedema is
Okay, first off, all I saw was the midsection. Secondly, her arms were nice.
So rare and unknown, a lot of doctors would see large legs and diagnose the patient with lymphedema. That's the fluid one. I mean, look at these two patients. One with lipedema and one with lymphedema.
My God, look at her toes. Well, you can't because this stupid bar pops up when you pause. All right, when I hit play again, look down at the woman with the lymphedema. Look at her big toes. They look horrible. Like those things have to hurt.
Could you tell the difference? It's part of the reason why lipedema is so notoriously hard to diagnose. You need to tell the difference? It's part of the reason why with lymphedema. That's the fluid one. I mean, look at these two patients. One with lipedema and one with lymphedema. Could you tell the difference? It's part of the reason why lipedema is so notoriously hard to diagnose. You need a trained professional who recognizes it, and if you and your doctor don't know what's going on, it's hard to know what type of specialist to look for. Usually it's lymphedema specialists or vascular specialists who end up diagnosing lipedema because these patients are just referred to them. This is where differential diagnosis is very, very important. Basically, a lot of the way lipedema is diagnosed is by ruling out other things. When a patient has disproportionately fatty limbs, pain, and bruising, and it can't be explained by anything else, there's a good chance a knowledgeable specialist will diagnose them with lipedema. That's because there's no definitive way to diagnose it. There's no tissue analysis, no blood test, no genetic test, nothing like that to determine if you have it. Recently, there has been research into a possible biomarker, meaning in the future we may have a blood test, but as for right now, diagnosis is purely clinical, meaning it's up to a medical professional's opinion. It's obviously an educated, expert opinion, but it's subjective nonetheless. There has been a ton of new research trying to find the cause of lipedema and develop a diagnostic test, but So far, there's not been anything too concrete. Experts think that it's probably sex-linked or hormone-linked because over 99% of those affected are female, and males with lipedema typically have a hormone imbalance caused by another illness. And to make things even more confusing, you can have lipedema, lymphedema, venous insufficiency, and obesity all at once, or any combination of those things. These are all considered comorbidities, conditions that often occur together. In fact, in advanced stages of lipedema, it's so common to also have lymphedema that clinicians have coined the term lipolymphedema. So you can have just lipedema, just lymphedema, or you can have both, which is lipolymphedema.
I think the important, because he's going to ask if we're confused, and yes. I think the important thing to remember while Colin's going over all of these terms is that the diagnosis is clinical, which means they're just eyeballing it. I mean, I'm sure they have some other things, like somebody was mentioning it's supposed to feel like a bag of rice, and I think another one of them is like you press, and instead of your skin just refilling like that, it'll leave an indent, like an indent, where your finger, like if I did that, it'll leave that on your skin. So, I mean, I know there's obvious physical markers that they can use, but at the same time, the same marker could be used for various diagnoses, right? But, excuse me. I think the really important thing here is to remember that it is clinical, which means in the end, it really comes down to the overall opinion of whoever it is that's diagnosing you. So having something with an actual like genetic marker on it that we could maybe blood test for, like he says, that would be so much more useful, especially to people who are suffering from these diseases, because it might not be lipedema. And then what do we do, right? Now we've got a whole other thing that we've been thinking was lipedema all this time, but it's not. Excuse me. Nope. 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 Don't do it. How do I make this go away?
Are you still with me? You may be wondering at this point where I got
I hate my computer some days. Good now.
lipolymphedema. Are you still with me? You may be wondering at this point where I got all this information, since I'm not even remotely a medical expert. In order to tell you the story of how I waded into this mess, I'll have to take you back to the beginning. A simple YouTube search, which I have to do in an incognito window now because all of this has wrecked my search results. If you look up lipedema, especially in the United States, it won't take you long to come across lipedema expert and researcher Dr. Karen Herbst.
And every time you gain weight, you grow a little bit more lipedema fat. That becomes very difficult to lose by diet, exercise, or...
Boy, the music they decided to put in the background of this video was very poorly chosen. Maybe no music at all, so you could actually hear what the hell she's saying.
Even bariatric surgery procedures. And that is not your fault.
Dr. Herbst is an American endocrinologist, and she's dedicated most of her work to researching and treating fat disorders. And I soon found out that if I was going to talk about lipedema, especially as an American, I was going to have to talk a lot about Dr. Herbst.
Chapter 2, Dr. Karen Herbst.
If you live in the US and you are diagnosed with lipedema, I bet there's a good chance you've heard of Dr. Herbst. And I think that's because she's kind of a unique figure. Not only is she highly regarded by her professional peers, but she's also beloved by a lot of patients. It's not often a doctor or researcher reaches that level of familiarity with the lay public.
Yeah, but when part of your gig is that every one of your patients who happen to be morbidly obese, you walk up to them and go, "No, no, honey, it's not your fault. It's the evil, evil lipedema. It's not your fault. You have no control over it." You're going to make a lot of friends when you tell them that all the things that are wrong with them are not their fault.
And that's because she really puts herself out there. She's active on social media, she's giving talks, appearing on TV, holding Zoom lectures, even attending patient support groups. It's no wonder people like her so much. She seems like she genuinely cares about these patients. Her active online presence is really useful for patients and professionals trying to learn more, and for people making a...
Yes, Herbst is German, but unlike Bertsch, she is American. Bertsch, however, I'm almost positive I'm mispronouncing the part of his name, but here we are.
Obscure YouTube videos. But arguably, Dr. Herbst is most famous for her work on the lipedema standard of care for the United States. There were 21 contributors on the lipedema standard of care, and we'll get to some of the other ones later, but Dr. Herbst was the lead author. This document is like...
And this is the problem I have with Herbst. Ooh. Coming from a background of dealing with pseudoscience and pseudoarchaeology, when you start to find one person's name on every paper or every study about that thing, it should be a red flag. Because what happens, whether the person is being like untruthful or not, you get a person who they become the topic, right? So to challenge whatever the prevailing theory is in that topic is to challenge that person directly, right? And so it doesn't leave a lot of room for a research or study outside of the established realm. It will eventually happen. Science is self-correcting, but when that kind of a thing happens, it does kind of put like a logjam in the study pipeline, you know? I'm mixing all of my metaphors here, by the way. So when I was doing some research into this, now mine was just a cursory Google thing, not nearly as in-depth as Colin's going to go. Her name's on everything. And if she's not the lead on the papers, she's attached as an advisor. So her name's on everything, which means if people have a contradictory opinion, they're less likely to bring it up because they'd have to directly contradict her, who is their advisor, or, you know, the person who has control of their job or their career or something like that, right? So I'm not saying she does that, but there are people who do. And so it really does cause problems. I think people like Herbst don't get a lot of people trying to replicate their research is because it's not really good. No, that's not necessarily true. I'm not saying Herbst's stuff is bad. I'm just saying, like, there's no opposing opinion and there's no room to question it. So let's say she does make a mistake, right? Maybe she interpreted some data incorrectly early on, but she's run with it all these years because she doesn't know it's wrong, right? And this could be completely innocent. And since everybody else is like, oh no, we can't question Karen Herbst because she's the expert, right? Even though one or two of them is finding out that whatever data point it is that she had is incorrect, right? And so now they're like, oh, well, we must be the ones who are incorrect. It's like, well, maybe you're not, though, kind of a thing. Anyway, I'm ranting. I meant in the beginning, if it doesn't attract other endocrinologists towards that type of study, that would worry me. I mean, I see what you're trying to say, Smug. In my experience with archaeology, there are some fields that are very small. Like archaeogaming is still a very small field. It's popular, but it's a very small field. And it's small because a lot of archaeologists don't want to go into it, or they don't perceive it as being a legitimate field, a subdiscipline, or things like that. But eventually, and even then, within the field of archaeogaming, there are people who are regarded as experts or you know, the founding fathers of it and all that kind of thing, or mothers mostly. It's actually a very female-driven field. But I guess my point is even if the field is very small, if it's a good scientific field, which I just kind of default people as being, there's still going to be a lot of rigorous debate within that field. So I guess, I don't know, maybe I missed the point of your question. Sorry. Oh, we are all some kind of scientist. You're an assistant professor and have to attach your name to established profs to give. Yeah, exactly. There's another thing, like Liz Kay says. There's that kind of a shit. And like, are you going to go tell them that they're wrong to their face? Like, some professors are okay with it, right? Some people are okay with you coming up and being like, I mean, if you're nice about it, being like, I did XYZ and my results keep coming up different than your results. And some people who are good scientists go, oh, that's interesting. But the problem is you still got to get past that guardian at the gate, right? You know, it's just kind of a thing. I don't know. Oh, good. I'm glad I answered that because I felt like I completely went off the deep end. Anyway, back to what Colin was saying.
The lipedema Bible for the US. It delves into a lot of the questions I had as I began my research, and it's extremely important to the whole conversation. So I just want to give a brief overview.
Chapter 3, The Standard of Care.
I just want to answer Bertsch's. Actually, yes. Some archaeo game, like the archaeogamologists, some archaeologists who study archaeo gaming do study the evolution of gaming itself. There's been some really neat things found, like a set of six-sided dice that, no, they weren't six-sided. They were octagonal dice that came out of the ancient Romans, showing that we've been using dice for a long time because they were bone dice on top of it. There's been dice are usually found because they're usually made of like clay or stone or bone, things that tend to hang around for a while. So there are people that study the historicity of various games. A lot of, well, like what I do mostly is I just kind of go into the game world and I'm kind of looking at the way that the game designers use material culture in order to tell a story. Because a game world is a game world is completely generated by humans. So there is nothing random or accidental in a game world, right? Maybe if later on in the future when the AI completely takes over, but right now everything has to be put there by human hands. So that's what I study about it. But there's people that like study the code itself. Like, you know how games always have some kind of update going on? These are people that like literally dig into the old code to find out how the code has evolved from the initial push of the game until, you know, today's modern version of it. But human brain go brr, dice gamble. Yeah, well. Yeah, bone dice from ancient Rome. Those with more money publish more and can afford open access journals. Yeah, exactly. Liz knows the pain. So yeah, Irving Finkel, great guy. I've never met him, but his stuff's good, so you can read that. Irving Finkel's a cool guy in general. Bone dice. You make dice from the bones of your enemies, and then they always roll poorly for you.
There are standards of care for many illnesses, but for the sake of brevity, just know that when I say the standard of care, I'm talking about the US lipedema standard of care. This standard of care is a guideline for how to diagnose and treat lipedema based on professional consensus. Dr. Herbst and her collaborators recognized that while some other countries, especially in Europe, had official guidelines for how to treat lipedema, the United States did not. It wasn't until 2021 that the United States finally published the standard of care in the journal Phlebology. In 2019, Dr. Herbst and her committee of other specialists assembled at a Fat Disorders Resource Society conference.
Can you imagine? Fat Disorders Research Society. Okay.
And they arrived at a consensus about various statements related to the definition, diagnosis, and treatment of lipedema. This meeting was the jumping off point to the standard of care document. Now, the document itself defines consensus as at least 75% agreement from the committee, so I'm sure there are some differing opinions not stated in the final document, but I've watched enough of Dr. Herbst's talks and read enough of her papers to believe that she stands behind the majority of the statements, or
well, if she's the lead on the fucking document, I would hope so.
At least she did at the time of publication. My impression is that she likely devised a lot of the consensus statements herself as the lead author. Here's how the standard of care defines lipedema. Quote, lipedema is a disease of fibrotic loose connective adipose tissue on the lower abdomen, hips, buttocks, and limbs of females, sparing the trunk, hands, and feet. Lipedema is rare in men. A trigger for the development of lipedema tissue may be an increase in fluid and connective tissue remodeling that occurs alongside body changes during puberty, childbirth, menopause, stress associated with lifestyle change, or by altering tissue structure after surgery or trauma.
So, breathing. If you're female and past puberty, breathing causes... Sorry.
End quote. Sounds similar to my definition, but obviously a lot more in-depth. But as I've already discussed, there are some conflicting opinions on the definition that we'll get into later. One thing I noticed when I read the US Standard of Care and a lot of Dr. Herbst's other work is that she really pushes her own unique categorization of lipedema, which is a disorder of the loose connective tissue. And I'm starting to notice more and more professionals using this language as well. Dr. Herbst and her colleagues theorize that since fat is considered a connective tissue, lipedema could be a connective tissue disorder, similar to something like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And actually, Dr. Herbst is well known for studying the connection between lipedema and hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Okay, here's my question, because I don't do gooey things, I only do bones. So, fat is a connective thing? Is that how I'm supposed to understand that? So fat is connective tissue. Adipose. I mean, I'm not saying it's not. I just that's not what I would have thought. But anyway, here we are. You also work at a museum. Where do you work? Oh, I mean, don't dox yourself or anything. But what kind of museum are you in, Liz? And what do you do there? I would love to crochet fuzzy dice. They don't work very well, but they are cute. They have brain surgery for OCD? That's crazy. I mean, I didn't think they could do that. It's not exactly how it works, Ruby, but yeah. Adipose. Natural science. Cool. Natural scientist geneticist. Wow. Oh, sorry. How can it be connective tissue? It's hormonally active. I mean, I don't know if there's a definition that says connective tissue can't be hormonally active. I mean, theoretically, everything in the body reacts to hormones anyway, so it's just which hormone is it reacting to? Describe their desire for a neat filing system as so OCD. That's true, Allie. You need fat to cushion the skin and muscle attached to the bone. Yeah, see, that's... Thanks, Ruby. There's more, sorry. I just paused it because I was asking a question. Onward!
Syndrome. And can I be honest? I think a lot of the reason Dr. Herbst popularized the term loose connective tissue disorder is because fat and even adipose are such loaded words. You can't say the word fat without a million different implications floating through people's heads. Calling it connective tissue is much more neutral. There is another theory promoted by Dr. Herbst and other specialists that lipedema is caused by lymphatic dysfunction. Many experts believe lipedema can eventually progress into lymphedema, but Dr. Herbst is a little different. She argues that lymphatic dysfunction is present even in the beginning stages of lipedema, which could cause abnormal fat development, fibrosis, pain, and later lymphedema. Like the standard of care says, a trigger may be an increase in fluid and connective tissue remodeling. Lymph fluid is carried throughout the body via vessels of the lymphatic system, but if that system is weakened, then lymph fluid tends to settle in the legs. Dr. Herbst and her associates think this lymphatic dysfunction could trigger the development of lipedema fat. If you've been keeping up with Anna O'Brien, aka
Liz, you and Lee should talk. Just, connecting the two of you since you're both in my chat.
Glitter and lasers, you may have heard her describe lipedema this way as well.
Hi, my name's Anna, and if you're new here, I have lipedema. And if you don't know what lipedema is, that's okay, because a lot of people don't. Basically,
like myself.
Basically, it's an adipose disorder or a fat disorder, which is caused by a leaky lymphatic system.
While it's not a confirmed theory, it is a very popular one. Like I mentioned before, lipedema and lymphedema are two different disorders. Lymphedema can cause a buildup of lymph fluid, and lipedema can cause a buildup of fat. But even though the disorders are different, lymphology is discussed a lot in the standard of care, and in the lipedema research field as a whole. The disorders appear together so frequently, it's no wonder many experts believe there's a connection. That's probably why the pronunciation...
The hell you say? What is it people always like to tell me when I tell them shit? correlation isn't causation. It's funny how it only works that way when it's something you want. But when I'm trying to point that out, suddenly I'm the asshole.
Lipedema has gotten more popular. You rarely find lipedema discussed without lymphedema in scholarship, and that can get very confusing. But that connection is why the standard of care promotes wearing compression garments, using compression pumps, and getting manual lymphatic drainage, or MLD.
I'm not lying here. I wonder what it would be like to like wear medical grade compression garments, even if you don't have whatever, either of these two disorders. Like, would it help you as an individual in general? Like, is there some kind of like overall benefit to wearing stuff like that? And I'm just like somewhat curious because I don't know, is it just kind of like it wrings you out all day and you got no liquids in your body? I feel like if that were true though, I feel like the bodybuilding community would have glommed onto it by now because they're constantly looking for ways to like squish the water out of themselves. So. Well, thank you for that, catnip. Oregon State cannot be wrong. Neither can the Google. Like a thunder shirt for humans. Yeah. MLD? Oh, yeah, I know. I hear actual MLD is actually pretty painful. Your mom is an endocrinologist, and she specializes only in diabetes, so imagine a specialist of specialty not studied enough. My poops and put. Yeah. Yeah, will it squish everything into the areas I want it to be in?
MLD is a type of therapeutic massage that helps move stagnant lymph fluid. These are all very common prescriptions for lymphedema, but they've become common prescriptions for lipedema as well. They all fall under the category of what's called conservative therapy. They're all treatments to help manage the symptoms and prevent them from worsening, but they're not cures. The standard of care also states lipedema tissue is difficult to reduce by diet, exercise, or bariatric surgery. If you're familiar with lipedema, you've probably heard that before.
Can we talk about how good he's doing considering he's reading a script? Like, I think that's the second time I've seen his eyes dip this entire time.
A lot of people don't know about lipedema, but for those who do, I think diet-resistant fat on the legs is one of the most recognizable symptoms. Even though specialists say it's difficult to lose lipedema fat, the standard of care still acknowledges a healthy diet and exercise can improve it or at least prevent it from worsening. A lot of these experts especially recommend low-carb diets since they're considered anti-inflammatory, so that should help with the pain aspect of lipedema too.
So no Serrano hot dogs?
And of course, if you have typical non-lipedema fat on your body, you can still lose that fat with diet and exercise. The standard of care says that since lipedema fat tends to resist diet and exercise, in some cases, liposuction may be the best course of action. And as of right now, according to the standard of care, that's the only way to reduce lipedema tissue itself. There's no cure. All of these things, the conservative therapies and surgery, are just management strategies, which is why research has really ramped up in recent years. Because of increased visibility, researchers have recognized that there are a lot of people in the world suffering with this disorder. And not only is there no cure, but there's not even a reliable diagnostic test. Overall, despite a few differences, the US standard of care seems to recommend a lot of the same treatments recommended in other countries.
Go figure. It's almost like other countries have been treating it longer than we have. Huh. Liz, you get used to the sound of your own voice. You do. Especially after you have to edit it for like 2 or 3 hours at a time. And then later on you're like, do I even sound like that? You guys crack me up. You gotta try it out, Liz. It's great. Once you start making videos, you get sucked in. Oh god. Ow. Everything hurts. You have fibro or sensitive neuropathy, I recommend if you decide on a weighted blanket, get a child weighted blanket versus adult because I found the adult felt like I was getting hit by wood planks after 2 weeks. I have been looking into a weighted blanket. to see if he was still in the kitchen. Mainly for my partner, because I think it would help him sleep. He's a very restless sleeper, and I think some of that has to do with being on the spectrum, and I'm kind of hoping it would be like a human thunder shirt for bedtime. Just talking a customer service voice. You like that more than your real voice? I've been told I have a podcasting voice when I used to do podcasting, and I forget what it was. It was, I wasn't podcasting. I think I was just talking to a friend or something, and they're like, after a while, they go, you know you're using your podcasting voice, right? And I'm like, I didn't know I had a podcasting voice. It didn't help. Sometimes I use both for ultimate squish. Well, Lee, now you know why Mommy likes Amber.
Compression garments, compression pumps, MLD, anti-inflammatory diet, exercise, liposuction. And that all sounds pretty cut and dry, right? At the beginning of my research, I learned that although lipedema is rare and not yet explained, we have ways of treating it. Some people go a long time without diagnosis because they're
Liz, as a zookeeper, did you run around sticking your thumb up animals' arses to see how they reacted? That's a joke from South Park.
doctors just think they're obese, but they actually have this disease that causes persistent progressive fat growth. That's the same stuff I'm sure a lot of you have heard from the media and creators online. There's just one tiny little bitty...
Can you guys hear the slime? Because I can stop if it's bothering people. I'm just like getting into it. But I can stop. I don't mean to gross people out. Don't you wish you were making $4.99 a minute, though? Kids did it all the time with the goats. Poor goats. Why do people let children around animals? Lee. Well, you gotta get your workout in before you get your workout in. Wearing incorrect compression garments or wearing them incorrectly can raise risk of blood clots. Oh, I thought they were supposed to help. But generally can be used by people sans diagnosis. Okay, most of you can't hear it, and those of you that can aren't bothered by it. Okay, cool. Let me know if it gets to be too much.
The problem.
Chapter 4, Dr. Tobias Bertsch.
A new challenger enters the ring.
This video would not exist if not for Dr. Tobias Bertsch. He's a German doctor who specializes in lymphology and bariatric medicine.
Bertsch? Bertsch? Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, okay.
He's also the founder and president of the International Lipedema Association. Like I mentioned before, information about Dr. Karen Herbst is abundant for the lay public, especially on social media. But Dr. Tobias Bertsch is a more typical doctor. He'll give a talk or a lecture here and there, but most of his work is in the clinic or in scientific publications. Just like Dr. Herbst, he is prolific in his field, but he doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
Well, we should go fix that. This particular one, the catacombs one, I got too much light in here. I think it's a combo of like normal slime and then the kinetic sand. Okay, I can hear it crackling in my headphones, so I assume you guys could hear that, but... Tobias. I hope to think that sometimes... Oni.
Not to mention, he's German, so people in the US, like me, are gonna be way more likely to find work by the American Dr. Herbst and all the specialists who follow her lead.
Because Google is a dick.
Messed up as YouTube's recommended feature is, it did somehow lead me to a video of Dr. Bertsch, which may have been the only reason I got into all of this. Honestly, I have no idea why it even stuck out to me, because the video is simply titled Lipedema. It was a video of him speaking at a lymphology conference, and from what I can tell, the Canadian Lymphology Framework posted the video like 3 years after this conference, and at the time of writing this, it has 60 views. And at this point, probably a third of those are mine. I think the reason I clicked on it was because the thumbnail said paradigm shift. I went on to find out that the full title of the talk was International Consensus on Lipedema, Why We Needed This Paradigm Shift. And that sounded pretty compelling to me because in spite of how long we've known about lipedema, it's still a relatively young field of study. Research has really only ramped up in recent years, and medical science updates all the time. So I thought a paradigm shift implied there had been some recent breakthroughs. But what I found was actually kind of the opposite. Dr. Bertsch says in this talk that a lot of claims about lipedema, specifically from Dr. Herbst and other Americans, do not have sufficient scientific backing. Dr.
Bum, 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 shots fired. I was just thinking, Liz, you should talk pseudo-archaeology or pseudoscience to me sometime. It sounds like paper wrestling? Okay. Thomas? Really? Well, alright then. I'm wrong. I might actually get a different one out just because, like, it is abrasive. I don't think it's sanding my hands or anything, but I can feel it. Achtung! No, this one's fun because it comes with these little skulls. They fall out though. They don't work real well in the stuff. But no, I'm not a slime aficionado. But I do like the OG slimes. They seem to really hold up. I'm not a slime expert, but they do seem to hold up. They're a lot of fun to play with. I didn't think they would be like my go-to fidget toy, but they really kind of are. And at this point, I'm getting way too many of them. And the Black Friday sale is coming up this Friday. And the s'mores one is going on sale. Like, I don't need s'more slime. Yes, I do. This is the hairball sweater. You'll see it in a minute. Boop, boop, boop. Oh no. There we go. It's wet. Too wet. Cottony feel to it. There it goes. Yeah. It's all frizzy like Anna's sweaters. The Rotten Baking Bundle looks really cool too, yeah. I guess we're going to talk about slime for a minute. I'm autistic. Oh, you're hypersensitive with sound? You guys, buy it, buy it. Glitch system. I mean, I don't think it's toxic. I just don't think it would taste good. This is OG. It's just OG Slimes. I think it's ogslimes.com. They have... Actually, I think they sell out fast. They put their stuff on sale, or they restock on Fridays. I want to say 6 p.m. Maybe it's 4 p.m. Anyway, if you go to their site, they'll tell you when they restock, but they restock on Fridays. And, like, they have, like, those cat-themed... Well, this is one of the cat-themed ones. They, like, sell out. The Halloween ones didn't sell out as fast, but... And the Black Friday one, it's going to be Black Friday, so I'm just... There's no theme to it, but I'm just assuming that those are going to sell out pretty quick, too, just because Black Friday. And there will be some kind of sale. So... You're an adult, do what you want. You can't tell me not to put things in my mouth. Ah. Yeah, they do shorts that are like the scoopability of whatever slime. Those are really fun to watch. Screw, screw, screw. So. Oh, there you go. I am not sponsored, no. If they want to sponsor me, I will totally sponsor your slimes. But I am not sponsored. Shelly, please, we ate paint, chalk, and glue. The lead the paint that didn't finish us off. What's some slime? Yeah. I think they're mostly I think they're all non-toxic. I just don't know if you want to eat them. I'm sure no, they don't taste good. There, I did that for you guys.
Bertsch doesn't think lipedema is caused by lymphatic dysfunction, or that lipedema can lead to lymphedema. In his opinion, the term lipolymphedema is a complete misnomer.
There are still a few colleagues, mostly from the United States, who still believe in the traditional view of lipedema, believe that lipedema is an edema disease, and as a consequence, they recommend MLD for patients with lymphedema.
What's more, he even pushes back against the idea that lipedema fat is resistant to diet and exercise.
And please note, many self-proclaimed experts will tell you that weight loss has no impact.
Damn, he isn't mincing words. I don't know if you know academic speak, but when you call somebody self-proclaimed, that's not a compliment. He's like, gauntlet.
On the lipedema. In fact, the opposite is true.
He doesn't think lipedema causes persistent weight gain, or that it always progresses through stages, like in those photos I showed before. He thinks MLD massage is pointless for lipedema, and he also thinks liposuction should not be recommended for a lot of these patients. This talk basically crumbled up the US standard of care and threw it in the trash. Now that is strange, isn't it? You have one side saying, look at our research, and another side saying, mine says the opposite. You see why it's taken me so long to make this video? What are we supposed?
No, Colin, I don't. Why did it take you so long to sift through this much medical jargon in which you are not familiar? Get me a video. We talked about this for 6 months. I'm enjoying it though. This has been worth the wait, 100%. I just keep pushing it till I'm Darwined out. Yeah, kinda. The lead and the gas. Yeah, some areas are still polluted. The area I used to live in Indianapolis, the ground, the soil itself was polluted with lead because of leaded gas. So like the whole area, you couldn't really plant in the ground because the ground was poison. Yeah, Liz. I vastly prefer the German doctor. I love that he like came out swinging, man. Yeah, well, you shouldn't eat shit from the side of the road anyway, unless you're 100% sure what it is. And I mean like 100,000% sure what it is. Being fair. That is true, Shelley Daly. American doctors see a lot more severe obesity-related disease than any other country. I think Britain has finally caught up with us for the most part. I don't think they're like 47% obese, but I like the German doctor. I'd like to hear the rest. I mean, I should hit play and hear the rest of his argument because he hasn't explained why he doesn't believe these things. So
Supposed to do with that. Dr. Herbst and Dr. Bertsch are both considered lipedema experts, but they hold basically opposite opinions. Some of you may be thinking,
welcome to science.
Yes, but Dr. Bertsch could be a one-off wackadoo. The standard of care is composed by a whole team of experts. Well, like I mentioned, Dr. Bertsch is also the president of the International Lipedema Association, and they have a consensus document of their own.
Chapter 5, The International Consensus.
May I introduce you to the Anti-Standard of Care Committee?
Damn. That's a lot of people. Belgium is pretty bad? Well, it's because they got all that delicious chocolate glitched. Only in America can we make them bigger, fatter, faster. Name that movie. Think Amber will watch? No, because it's a 3.5 hour long video. Amber's attention span can go beyond like 3 seconds. Bayesian statistics. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. We got into it once. We had a geologist, an actual legit geologist, with us, the archaeologists, and we call. Fuck, I can't remember what the rock is, but it's like rhyonite or something like that. Anyway, we call a particular kind of chert rondite. We'll just go with rondite because I can't remember what the fucking name of it is. And apparently in geology, there is a specific thing that is rondite, right? And it's not the thing that we call rondite. And so, so every conference in the rock room, because there's a rock room, there will be at least 2 people having an argument about rondite and whether we should be calling it that or not. And we're stupid and you're stupid and no, you're old and blah. And it just goes on from there. Pretty funny, actually. 8 minutes is a lot, you guys. Yeah, exactly. It's not muted. I just quit playing it. Oh, you're... Guys, quit muting things. I'm saying important things.
The International Lipedema Association, or ILA. Actually, the Standard of Care Committee might be the anti-ILA. Figuring out the timeline has been a little difficult since it seems they developed at about the same time, but the main takeaway is they are both groups of specialists, but they disagree on a lot of points. Much like the Standard of Care Committee, this international group of experts convened together in 2019 to create a consensus document. Theirs was published slightly earlier in 2020 in the Journal of Wound Care. Initially, there were 24 authors from various European countries, led by Dr. Bertsch. But the consensus group expanded and created the ILA in 2021, which includes many more members from all over the world, including the US. And the ILA has this consensus document available on their website as kind of their official stance. Their document is titled Lipedema, A Paradigm Shift and Consensus. Dr. Bertsch was the lead author, and obviously in that
Dr. Bertsch likes the term paradigm shift. Throwing it out there. You know, I'm just noticing a pattern. Just saying. I was making it up, Lee. I don't know. Rondite is an actual, like, crystal mineral thing that people, is shiny rock that people collect because it has vibrational somethings or others. So I'm not right in any way. Nerds beefing over rocks. Yes, it is the something shiny stream. Hush. For mine, it's either genetic techniques, or if it's just environment versus genetics, or those that come from, say, it could just be random.
Paradigm Shift talk, he was referring to this document. That title is kind of a mouthful, so I'll refer to it as the International Consensus. So, to review, in the US, we have Dr. Herbst's Standard of Care, and mostly in Europe, we have Dr. Bertsch's International Consensus. It's worth noting that unlike the Standard of Care, the International Consensus members reached 100% agreement on all the statements in their document. And the main reason they created this consensus document was because they wanted to dispel what they call rampant myths surrounding lipedema. The International Consensus defines lipedema this way, quote, lipedema is a chronic condition characterized by a disproportionate increase in adipose tissue and pain in the legs and sometimes the arms of women. Its prevalence is largely unknown. The disproportionate increase in weight around the legs usually starts in phases of weight gain that are mostly connected to hormonal changes such as puberty, pregnancy, and menopause. Years later, and mostly after further weight gain, pain or the feeling of severe heavy legs may occur, at which point the condition meets the diagnostic criteria for lipedema, end quote. That is in stark contrast to the US Standard of Care. Well, at first glance, the differences may seem pretty subtle, but they pack a punch when you consider the implications.
Chapter 6, The Debate.
See, that's the noise you should have
let's
had.
compare these two sides. First of all, we'll look at where they agree. Both acknowledge that the condition causes weight gain in the legs and arms that usually appears around hormonal shifts. They also both note symptoms of pain and impaired mobility. They do agree about a few treatments like good nutrition, exercise, and compression garments. But that's about where the similarities end. In comparison with the Standard of Care, the International Consensus is actually pretty simple. Lipedema is a condition of disproportionate fat on the limbs and pain, and those symptoms are often correlated to typical weight gain. The Standard of Care includes a lot more speculation. Anything from hormones to stress to surgery could cause lipedema. The tissue itself is described as scarred and fibrotic, which could lead to pain, and perhaps most importantly, the lymphatics and fluid edema could be involved in the development of the fat. It can be argued that the international consensus is way more focused on disputing those claims than making their own claims. There are quite a few points of contention in the international consensus, but I just want to hit on the major ones.
Contention 1. What is lipedema?
Baby, one more time.
One distinction between these two documents, believe it or not, is how they categorize what lipedema is. Dr. Herbst's group often calls it a disease of the loose connective tissue.
And that's why we like to say that lipedema is a connective tissue disease, because of all the other constituents of the tissue that are important, not just the fat cell.
Dr. Bertsch's group calls lipedema a syndrome of unknown origin. I have seen the ILA use the terms disease and syndrome kind of interchangeably, but I do know Dr. Bertsch in particular always emphasizes lipedema is a syndrome. He actually goes out of his way to call it lipedema syndrome.
Lipedema is...
Hey, Nerfy's here. You guys don't know Nerfy. Nerfy's the one that runs the Discord that is pinned at the top of the live chat. So if you haven't joined, you'll be joining Nerfy's Discord, but I linger in there. But I'm really only in there for the girls, but there are like many other things that you could do in that Discord besides just talk about the girls. The Goyles. Give both sides a sword and fight. No. They took the swords away from us a long time ago so that we quit killing each other. Nerfy is Slay, yes.
Syndrome, and I would like to explain what is the difference between syndrome and disease. And a syndrome refers, as you probably know, to a group of symptoms, while a disease refers to an established and well-defined medical condition. And lipedema syndrome, ladies and gentlemen, is by far not a well-defined medical condition. We don't have any lab values, no histology findings, no ECG findings that tells us this patient is suffering from lipedema syndrome.
There are those who assert they do know the cause and course of lipedema, and they all have different opinions. A bunch of those people did get together to hash it out for the standard of care, and they still weren't able to come to a conclusion. I mean, the standard of care calls lipedema a disease, but speculates it could be caused by all kinds of things. Puberty, childbirth, menopause, stress, surgery, trauma, lymphatic dysfunction, a connective tissue disorder. The international consensus simply says, we don't know yet, but maybe it's genetic.
Contention 2. Is there edema in lipedema?
One of the most emphatic points in the international consensus is that the authors believe there is no evidence of fluid edema in lipedema. This is maybe the biggest source of contention between the two sides. The name lipedema is really confusing because edema usually does refer to a swelling of fluid, but lipedema is a swelling of fat. But like I said, Dr. Herbst believes that lipedema could be caused by lymphatic dysfunction. So she does believe there is fluid edema in lipedema.
There is a defect in the early lymphatic endings, and maybe even a subtle defect in the larger connecting lymphatics. So the lymphatic system just doesn't function maximally. This fat depot compresses the lymphatics, which are already slightly dysfunctional, and that excess fluid is a rich environment for inflammation, but also for fat to grow.
To dispute this theory, the international
So the lymphatic fluid causes fat? Is that what she's saying? Tell me more, Colin.
National consensus provides ultrasound images showing the fluid present in tissue with lymphedema versus the lack of fluid in lipedema tissue. And in the talks that I've seen, Dr. Bertsch also shows 3D imaging to demonstrate there's no fluid in lipedema.
This is a control group. This is a normal, a healthy patient. And these are the lymphatics of these patients. They are completely healthy. And here you see the lymphatic system of a lymphedema patient. You see a chaotic organization. You see the decongestion, the dilated lymphatics, different calibers, and this is a patient with lymphedema, completely normal lymphatic system.
Dr. Bertsch argues that if lipedema really is a lymphatic disorder like lymphedema is, why would we not see any fluid? Now, Dr. Herbst and her colleagues argue that the edema is difficult to see with most imaging techniques. And there has been a recent study co-authored by Dr. Herbst that shows lipedema patients in the study tended to have more of what are called hyperintensities or bright spots on imaging called lymph angiography. That suggests there could be edema in these patients' legs, but this is the only study I've seen that's found this. I did see one other study co-authored by...
See? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm effing talking about. There's one study that backs up what Herbst wants to say. But her name is on everything, and you have to go through her to do studies in the States. So the only people that can challenge her are the people outside of the States. One fucking study. You can't, you could. There's nothing like physically stopping you from doing it. But good luck getting your paper into any fucking journal about lipedema if it counters what she has to say. I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm just trying to explain, what do you call that? I guess gatekeeping of that can be of scientific things. All right, I need to go to the potty. So while I'm gone, you guys can stare at these cute little kittens. And there's a guy talking. He's the guy that keeps track of the little buttergers. Oh, he just walked off camera. Well, they'll be back on camera, don't worry. But I'll be right back.
I don't know, maybe. I'll have to talk to Volker about it. Well, there's Dank Doug. At least you can tell him. I think they're still smaller than you think they are, but I mean, maybe we could try colors and see if it works. I was hoping they'd be kind of full-time on food, but might be worth a shot. Thank Doug. Going to see Mama.
Alright, I'm back. Aren't they the cutest damn things on the planet? Look, they're starting to eat solids. Well, solid-ish food. Look at the little walk. The little butt just wiggle. God, I miss kittens. No, there's 6 of them, by the way. There's 6 little... And they're all identical. Well, there's differences, but mostly they're identical. Look at him waddle. He had like a little pin built for them. I don't know if the mama cat is on camera.
Seraphine, I think that face.
But she had got tired of the pin, so she one by one moved each one of the kittens out of the pin onto the floor. So he was like, well, I guess it's time to take the pin down. Oh, there it goes. He's probably weighing them.
No, she cute.
Oh, no. You get your baby. Oh. I wonder what goes through their heads when they get lifted up like that. Like, I'm being teleported by the claw. Alright, anyway. Get back to what we were actually here for.
Dr. Herbst that tried to find fluid, but The results were largely speculative and inconclusive. They looked at abnormal vessels in lipedema patients and speculated that the abnormal vessels could cause fluid leakage, but they still weren't able to determine the presence of fluid.
Space was used as a surrogate measure of the amount of interstitial fluid.
More importantly, there are other studies using a variety of imaging techniques that did not find any fluid in the tissue. All of the authors of the International Consensus report that their pure lipedema patients did not have any fluid accumulation, and they cite several published studies with the same findings. Why is this so important? Well, if the international consensus is correct that there's no edema in lipedema, that would completely alter the way it should be treated. I mean, titling this paper a paradigm shift was no joke. Basically, every treatment plan that I've heard of includes recommendations that help improve lymphatic flow, or in other words, treat edema. And while patients with lipedema sometimes do have the fluid condition lymphedema as well, the international consensus asks, well, for patients with pure lipedema, why are we recommending these things? Things like compression, MLD, pneumatic pumps, vibration plates.
What is the vibration plate supposed to do? I'm very skeptical of the vibration plate, but I remember hearing Mama Goob talk about how she used one and she liked it, but it seems goofy to me. We keeping score. Yeah, so far the German doctor's out of... Bertsch is ahead. Any scientific evidence that edema is the cause of the patient's symptoms? Is there any scientific evidence that manual lymphatic drainage improves the symptoms of patients with lipedema by its drainage effects? The answer to both these questions is no.
The international consensus says there's no evidence that those treatments actually help with lipedema because there's no evidence of fluid. Well, one addendum. Dr. Bertsch and his colleagues actually do recommend compression garments, but only because they think that does help with inflammation and pain, like how athletes wear compression. But things like MLD and compression pumps, according to the ILA, seem completely pointless for pure lipedema. That is quite the paradigm shift. Things that have been recommended for years as absolutely imperative treatment for lipedema might not be necessary. Obviously, pain management is necessary, but compression isn't going to help reduce the fat swelling or prevent future fat growth.
Somebody said this earlier in the stream, I think it was chicken or brioche, but Liz has reset it here. I'm sure, but what it looks like to me, given what happens later in the vid, oh, I haven't gotten that far yet. Herbst has found a niche to make loads of money and has the funding to back it up, and it's too small for opposing voices. These things do happen, but that's why we have to be hypercritical. That's why we need people like Colin.
In the ILA's opinion, and people like Dr. Herbst and her colleagues disagree.
And fluid moves down with gravity, and so lobules tend to get bigger over time. And therapists, manual lymphatic drainage therapists, can reduce the size of lobules and provide compression garments that can contain those lobules. And there are now compression garments specific for lobules. So I think getting to a therapist and making sure that
Messiah's a little strong. Let's call him the scientific skeptic, because that's what he is.
As you make your decisions, that your lobule doesn't increase in size is really important.
The other reason this fluid issue is so important is because of the debate around lipolymphedema. Dr. Herbst claims that lymphatic dysfunction causes lipedema and that advanced stages can lead to lymphedema. Dr. Bertsch believes any lymphatic dysfunction in these patients is secondary and it's caused by another condition entirely: obesity.
Contention 3, obesity.
You may already know that many obese people develop lymphedema. Excess weight can impair the lymphatic system, which causes a buildup of lymph fluid, usually in the legs. A lot of that is just due to gravity. When you have a weak lymphatic system, it's hard to pump fluid uphill, so to speak, so it often settles in the limbs, usually the legs and/or arms. This condition is extremely common in obese people, and most people with advanced lipedema are also obese.
You should know that around 85%, and we have studied all over the world who say the same, around 85% of our patients with lipedema syndrome are obese, have a BMI more than 30.
And in Dr.
That would be a really strong correlation for me, to the point where I would actually believe causation, but no proof of it, so also not a medical doctor. One thing I would like to see, and this is not on Colin at all, this is on the medical community. I would like to see the obesity stats broken down into the various obesity categories, because I believe there's 4 obesity categories now. Can you believe? But I'd like to see how many people fall into each category, like level 1, level 2, level 3, and 4. And I'd like to see how many people in the lower levels have these obesity-related illnesses, comorbidities, compared to the higher levels, because the people in the fat acceptance community, this is a great slam on the fat acceptance community, the people in the fat acceptance community are usually where visually I would put them in like class 2, 3, and then the 600-pound life people, they're the class 4 stuff. But and don't get me wrong, I reiterate this every day, or every time I do one of these. I'm obese. I would be what would be classified as a class 1 obesity. My BMI is like 33 right now. So I am technically obese. As my doctors like to remind me, which is fine. That's their job. But I would like to see, like with this, with lipedema, how many of the patients that have it along, like the 85% of people that have it, how many of them are in class 2 and 3 obesity versus how many people are in class 1 obesity, right? Class 4, I mean, I just assume you have it if you're in class 4, because even the guys get it at that level. But even then, like, there's just other little things. Oh, like the whole, like, the 47% of America is overweight. Okay, but what does that mean? Like, where are we falling in these categories? How many of that 47% is in class 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Like, are we superly morbidly obese? And because I feel like that would be something to be very concerned about. Or are we just, all of us just kind of like kissing level 2 for the most part, which still is bad, but it's not like, dear God, we're all going to die levels kind of a thing, you know? I don't know, in my opinion. But here we are. Again, Colin couldn't do this if he wanted to, because that's a statistic that the medical community is going to have to give us. We decided Kuwait as being incredibly obese, but I've seen other people say that about Kuwait, though, as well, Hillary. So, I don't know. There might be some validity to it. Yeah, there's a difference between level 1 and level 2. So, my body is also communicating that it would like dinner, but I'm suffering for you. Yeah, better categorization is more helpful information, exactly. Anyway.
Dr. Bertsch's opinion, that very common obesity is likely the cause for the associated lymphedema.
That's very important for me to emphasize this.
See, this person is obesity class 3, which used to be the biggest category. But how many of them are falling in this, like, obesity 3? Or like somebody said, I lost it already. Maybe they're all class 1. Maybe the majority of that 87% is in class 1. That would be kind of good to know, because it means as soon as you start becoming overweight, obese, like medically obese, then your chances of getting it are like really freaking high. As opposed to, no, it starts hitting you around class 2. Sorry for all the moving around. What is your name? Thank you for the $5. It's cutting your name off. All right, well, we're going to do this then. Thank you, Dippled Skeptic. A, I love your name, and B, thank you for the $5. Where are you at that it's afternoon? Because it's like almost 6 o'clock here, PM. Bell curve trend probably. I worded it the way I think. I'm listening to my body right now. My body wants macaroni and cheese. My body is stupid, by the way. It can't have macaroni and cheese.
This is an obesity-associated lymphedema. This is not a lipedema-associated or lipedema-induced lymphedema. We have no pathophysiology why lipedema should cause lymphedema, but we know very well why obesity is inducing lymphedema.
People do often make the point that BMI is not always reliable for
BMI is absolutely reliable for what it was designed to do. And it was designed to predict health. I've already done a video on this. Yeah, I've already done a video on the BMI thing.
lipedema patients. So Dr. Bertsch also uses the waist to height ratio to determine if a patient's lipedema is kind of throwing off the BMI scale. To be clear, the ILA is not saying that lipedema is just obesity. Instead, what they're saying is that many or most lipedema patients also have obesity, and that obesity can often make lipedema symptoms worse. In Dr. Bertsch's opinion, obesity is the much more urgent issue that needs to be addressed first and foremost.
It's lipedema plus obesity, and to focus on lipedema in patients like these and to ignore the disease which is in the foreground, the obesity, is the same as when your house is on fire and you put out the fire in the garage.
The standard of care.
Look, man, the car's in the garage. If I can't go somewhere, how am I supposed to outrun the fire? I would like to point out that, other than I'm moving around a lot, all of the slides that he put up, the body size of the people in those were, what, class 2, class 3 obesity. So, yeah, okay. Sorry, my partner walked through the room. He's getting the mail. Actually, I don't know what he's doing. Bye. Right when you get work. I make fun of him. That dude makes more money than I ever will. And he has less education than me. So let that be a lesson to all of you thinking, oh, I should go get my master's degree. We're waiting on you. No, you're fine. I thought you were asleep. What's in the bag? Oh, okay. That's not exciting. Everybody says hi. Now he's opening the package. I know you guys wanted a play-by-play. Let's just listen to Colin while he...
asserts that lipedema is often confused for obesity, meaning that some patients aren't actually obese because of their lifestyle, but it's just their lipedema making them appear that way. And that's somewhat understandable. For some patients, if a doctor only looks at their BMI and not their body fat distribution, they may get the wrong impression. I think about those patients who have thin torsos.
Seriously, though. This one's really throwing me for a loop because her arms look really muscular, but like I can see her ribs. Like she looks buff through the shoulders, but like her torso, she looks really like thin. What's in that box? I get that too, Brioche. I get that too. Yeah, he's not feeling good, but he's too young to be my daddy. He did not bring snacks. Maybe he should have. I try not to eat on camera for you guys.
And large legs. However, that's not exactly the point Dr. Herbst and her colleagues are making. One of the more controversial beliefs some specialists like Dr. Herbst hold is that lipedema can affect more parts of the body than just the arms and legs. Like I said before, the standard of care's definition of lipedema is a disease of fibrotic loose connective tissue on the lower abdomen, hips, buttocks, and limbs. That definition begins with lower abdomen, and I have to think that's not a coincidence because that's such a controversial opinion. It seems like they might be subtly emphasizing that belief by listing it first.
Here's my thing. Again, I'm not arguing with Colin. God, what was her name? Sarah something. She's the picture of the woman on the front of Fearing the Black Body, which I know several of you have asked me to read it. I've tried. I don't. It's rough. It's somebody's thesis. And I don't know, anyway. Anyway, the woman on the cover of that has the same type of fat distribution as Anna kind of does, where it looks like she's got big old turkey legs, you know, like it tapers down, but she got a big old butt and a lot of thigh going on. and she's depicted that way, and that's actually why she was brought over to the US and like paraded around, because everybody's like, oh my god, it's so weird. Cool. That to me looks a lot like what I guess the US calls lipedema. Yeah. And that distribution, like whenever you see pictures of her, it's always in the buttocks and the thigh and never in the stomach. So, and I've seen Anna's ass more than I ever wanted to in my life. I would be willing to bet that what we're calling lipedema could settle in the rear, get some junk in your trunk that you can't get rid of. I'm not sure if I'm convinced that it's going to be in the fat apron in the front. You know, I don't know. Because it doesn't look the same. But that's just me. Yeah, Lee, I can't pronounce her first name, though. That's the problem. I'm guessing it's very close to Sarah, or else they wouldn't have named her that. But yeah, Sarah Bartman. Rise my ferals. Someone's summoning snacks. Yeah, losing weight is urgent because if you need surgery, it makes it less dangerous. I went in for surgery I was actually heavier than I am right now because I've lost some weight. But even then, the doctor was telling me that there was a good chance they'd have to intubate me because I'm big. And I'm like, all right. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. You won't even know until you wake up. But I just have to tell you this. Like, she had to tell me all kinds of shit I didn't want to know. I'm like, is there a paper I can sign where you just stop telling me things? Anyway. Yeah, she really likes her butt. It's just the Dutch spelling. Ah. That would explain the last name. She has an actual name that is not that. But anyway. I guess my point is that, like, that particular distribution of fat is historical. So it's easy to believe, I guess, is my point. They really need to study those who are thin with lipedema. Same with how they studied non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Remove the confounding factor, then you can isolate. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, uninformed consent, exactly. It's like, you're gonna do it to me anyway. Yeah. The more you weigh, the harder it is with anesthesia. It's harder to keep you under. Pain management after the fact is more difficult. I don't know what the hell they gave me when I was waking up from the hospital, but holy Christ, I wish I had that on hand. I felt not like loopy. I just felt no pain. It was great. I didn't feel anything. There was no pain. And I was like, wow, this is what it's like. Anyway. You guys are going to go do your own citizen scientist research. Sorry, Colin. We'll get through this eventually.
And actually, that's kind of a conservative representation of that belief. Dr. Herbst and many of her colleagues are on record saying that lipedema could affect not just the arms, legs, and lower abdomen, but theoretically, they believe it could be anywhere subcutaneous adipose tissue is found.
This is Dr. Wright, and I have a very special guest today. Dr. Karen Herbst is here visiting my clinic. So what we want to talk about is, does lipedema occur in the trunk? And this is something Dr. Herbst and I feel very strongly about, but you know, is somewhat controversial because our European colleagues say it does not occur in the trunk, and we believe it does.
Agreed, completely. And I think that really lipedema is a systemic disease. It just manifests because of a variety of reasons, primarily because of gravity in the legs, so from the abdomen on down, but also in the upper arms. It's a little, I don't know, we can't explain it as well as gravity, but there is a big piece of fascia on the elbow that holds the tissue. So if fluid were to leak down, it's going to keep.
So I can have lipedema on my elbow? On my weenus? I love your name, Elder Millennial. No, don't spoil it for me. La. I've only gotten through the first hour. which is why this is not a problem. Darn you, gravity. Systematic fat phobia. I mean, I'm not going to say people don't make judgment calls on other people based on their size. So, because people make judgment calls on people based on everything. Your appearance in general is going to work for or against you regarding, you know, depending on various aspects. So I'm sure there are some people who are like, just because you're a big girl, but is it as rampant as they want us to believe? No. And just because somebody doesn't want to date you, that's not systematic fat phobia. That's somebody doesn't want to date you. Why do you want to date people who don't want to date you? I don't understand. There it is. I was waiting for my sound to come back. The Salem witch logic. Yeah, human nature sees patterns and makes judgment calls. It stops at the elbow. Oh, okay. So my elbow is protecting me. Bingo wings.
Accumulate above the elbow and then build up. So again, gravity might be a big player in why we see it on the limbs, but that it can really occur anywhere.
So that would mean that a patient could present as a typical obese person with increased fat on their whole body, and all of that fat could be attributed to lipedema. And while that line of thinking isn't so clearly spelled out in the standard of care, we find...
So this is why Anna went, okay, this finally clicks. This is why Anna was on her little crusade. You guys, I've lost all the weight I can lose, and all the fat on my body is now unburnable fat. No, bitch. I've seen what you eat on camera. What are you eating off camera? So anyway. Yeah, we don't like Anna because she's big. We don't like her because she's an asshole. Yeah, exactly. Like Anna wasn't even on my radar until she did the until I found out about the Target video. She had actually done that before I started reacting to her. And then the jogger thing, and I was like, all right, this is too much. I don't actually give two Fs about her size, other than she lies about it. Because I follow, what is her name? I don't know. She's another plus size fashionista. She's the one that started losing weight because she couldn't wipe her own ass, and like the entire fat acceptance community was like, that's fat phobic. And I'm like, what? It's fat phobic to be able to wipe your ass? Anyway, so I started following her because of that whole kerfluffle, and because I love what she wears. She wears fashion that I like, and it's really cute, and she puts together these amazing outfits, and she's got all these cool backgrounds that she films in because she's into the dark academia gothy thing, and I'm just like, sign me up. Anna's style just isn't my style. I'm not into whatever the fuck you want to call what she does. But yeah, so that's the thing there. Which is why I tried not to react to her clothing hauls, because I don't like what she wears. So I'm gonna have a negative opinion of anything she puts on. It's like, if you don't like peanut butter, why are you eating peanut butter? Yeah, the Target video is what put her on the map, so. Oh yeah, well, when I finally get my blood panel done, I will get my thyroid checked too. Say hello. Hello, everyone. I hate when she holds me like this. Back up. You got it? Nope, you don't got it. Sorry. I know. That was a jerk move. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you ever forgive me? I know. I deserve the shade. Right, exactly. You're not 600 pounds of lipedema. But according to Karen Herbst, Dr. Herbst, you can be 600 pounds of lipedema. So
find it often from the authors in other places.
The abdomen is heavy. And this is also a point of contention, is that is the abdomen affected in lipedema? And if you attended our research webinar this month, you would have heard Dr. Sinti say that he thinks that lipedema is a systemic disease, and I agree.
So something I want to talk to people about, and that is Abdominal lipedema, or lipedema that happens usually in the abdomen, could be the sides, the flanks also.
I kind of wonder if that belief wasn't included in the standard of care because other members of the committee pushed back against it. I believe Dr. Herbst and her colleagues would argue that not everyone with lipedema has it in the abdomen, but they are very open to the possibility. Publications in
Glitch system, I think you need to change your name to Salem Witch Trial Logic. I get what you're saying, though. I really do.
in other countries, and even most in the US, say that lipedema can affect the legs and sometimes the arms. But Dr. Herbst would even debate that statement, since she believes that about 80% of patients have it in their arms. But this is all extremely difficult to determine, since there's no reliable way to examine the fat and say, this portion is definitely lipedema, or this portion is definitely regular fat. I have seen various specialists say you can identify lipedema fat by feel. They say it's usually hard, nodular, and fibrotic, but the problem is that obesity can also cause fibrosis, and cellulite often looks and feels the same way. So this diagnostic technique is debated as well.
Is cellulite not adipose tissue? I always thought it was. Am I wrong? I thought it was just another word for it. But he specifically uses it here, which would... Colin's not like that, so I would imagine it's two different things. Yeah. Everybody remember 40-45, because we're going to go back some. Lee made an excellent point. Again, this isn't on Colin. We're only pausing on the best faces here. Oh, yeah, here we go. There's a really great book out there that's called How to Lie with Maps or something like that. I'll see if I can't dig it out. But because I think Kim has abandoned me. But basically the point of the book is charts are hard to understand sometimes. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on here. I mean, I could sit here long enough to figure it out because everything's labeled, but I'm going to have to stare at this damn thing for a while. And Lee was saying this is not Lee, Liz was saying this is unnecessarily complicated. What did you say? Come back here. It's too complicated for a slide. And that's because you have to sit with this one to see what's going on. You can't just look at this and be like, oh, okay. And here, even if you're like an actual scientist that actually uses these slides for whatever God-be-known reason, it's still, you still can't just glance at it and be like, oh, okay. It's because the slide is too complicated, right? They do this with stocks too. It's a way of making the data look impressive because like, oh, wow, this is a very fancy smanchy chart you've got here. So it must be, you know, good. And it's also a way of obfuscating the data itself. Like there's only one line, it's at the 50, so now I gotta like fucking eyeball where the rest of these stupid little sections go. Then you gotta know what the little lines popping outside of the colored lines, because those mean something too, by the way. It's just a ridiculous chart. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, you can take this same data and put it in a bar chart, or I wouldn't put it in a pie diagram, but you could, and it would still be slightly more understandable than this thing, right? Oops. My alarm was going off and I didn't even hear it. Yeah, Liz, like, what did the colors mean? And in prep? Manuscript in preparation. Oh, good catch. Good catch. Anyway. Right, it's a fairly typical journal figure just being repurposed for a slide. But again, you have to sit with this one. And I mean, maybe it's good for the journal. I don't think slides like this, I don't think charts like this should be used at all because they're complicated and they're hard to look at. But, you know, how to not do a presentation. Yeah, this slide's going to be up for what? 30 seconds, maybe a minute? It would take me way longer than that and it's so tiny. Like, even if I put my glasses on, I wouldn't be able to read this. So it's appropriate for a paper where people have time to digest. It's inappropriate for a presentation. Yes, exactly. Winter seas. All right. We were at 40, 45, I think. All right, we'll just go with this. Well, close enough. Okay.
But they recommend it for different reasons. Dr. Herbst believes patients need compression with garments, pumps, and MLD because these treat lymphatic dysfunction, fluid edema, and potentially she thinks these treatments could slow the progression. Dr. Bertsch believes compression garments help with pain, but the other treatments are unnecessary since there is no edema. And compression wouldn't stop fat growth since he believes that's caused by regular weight gain behaviors. Both sides agree that patients should try to eat healthy and exercise, but again, Dr. Herbst recommends exercise largely to increase lymphatic flow, while Dr. Bertsch recommends this to prevent further weight gain and improve mobility. One of the other major differences between these two viewpoints are their surgical recommendations. For morbidly obese patients, Dr. Bertsch recommends weight loss surgery. Weight loss surgery would address the more urgent issue of obesity, which may help improve lipedema as well.
Please note, many self-proclaimed experts will tell you that weight loss has no impact on the lipedema. In fact, the opposite is true. As you can see here, the volume of the thigh.
I'm not crazy about this one. I know the closed captions are in the way. Let me take that away. Yes, we get it. That's the subtitles. I'm not crazy about this one, but it's a little bit easier to follow. Even as a layperson, I think you could follow it okay, especially if you had there's a key somewhere that's explaining this stuff, right? And he's clearly talking to peers, or else he wouldn't have done this in the first place. But this is better than that monstrosity that Herbst used. Oh my god, I can actually see. His accent is a bit thick. Yes, that's why I turned the closed captions on. A witch. As a professional of Salem witch trial logic, I have to say this is Salem witch law. Okay. That's funny. Well, it looks like a stock market chart because that's what the stock market uses. Because the stock market is trying to obfuscate the data. Who doesn't have any degrees? Herbst? Herbst is a doctor. She's a doctor, like clinical doctor.
At the y-axis and the time after surgery, the first and the second year after at the x-axis. And patients with lipedema lost the same amount of volume in the thigh as the control group, even a bit more.
But Dr. Herbst claims that weight loss surgery may not help with lipedema symptoms. She isn't against it, and she's even said she has recommended it for some patients, but she thinks weight loss surgery doesn't always improve lipedema limbs. And theoretically, it wouldn't help those patients who have whole body lipedema at all.
This is a woman who was a patient of mine.
This is literally the academic school ground, and those two are facing off, and we are all standing around going, fight, fight, fight. That's what's happening here. Yes, his was a little bit more easy to understand, at least for me. That doesn't mean it's more easy to understand for anybody else. And he actually explained out loud what we were looking at, so that helps a little bit more. Herbst didn't even do that, or at least she didn't do it in the clip that he had. There we are, Salem with trial logic. I love it.
She also has obesity and lipedema. So in blue shorts, it's before sleeve gastrectomy, and in the gray shorts.
I'm sorry, I keep pausing. A 45-year young woman. Stop it. Just stop it. You're middle-aged. It's all right. You can only go forward. You can't go back. Anyway.
It's after sleeve gastrectomy, and you can see she did lose weight on her abdomen, which is great. She also lost a little weight on her arms, and you can see that her cuff actually improved after the surgery. So I think surgery does help the obesity component of lipedema. It may also help the lipedema component, but it does not get rid of all the lipedema tissue.
Instead, she thinks a lot of these patients, regardless of weight, should receive liposuction. Dr. Bertsch isn't against liposuction, but he doesn't recommend it for most patients. These are radically different treatment plans. Do we recommend pumps and MLD or not? Do we recommend bariatric surgery or liposuction? And what are our expectations for these treatments? This is why figuring out the cause of lipedema is so important. It's hard to know how to treat something when the experts can't even agree on what it is.
Winter C says it's academic inaccessibility. Papers and presentations like this assume a degree of education and specialization. The only defense I will give them, because you're not wrong, is that they were, I believe, speaking to a room full of peers. However, the video is clearly available for public consumption. And so that is where the problem lands, because you get people who are like, oh, I've read this now, I know these things. You don't, because you didn't understand what you were watching, right? And this is where pseudoscience comes from. It's just blatant misunderstanding of the science. Yeah, she was talking about gastric sleeve. Wasn't she, Hillary? That's what I thought. Anyway. It's one big charisma battle. So just the surgery, not the weight loss. Yeah. She's minus 1,000. Anyway.
From what I've seen, a lot of popular treatment plans just borrow from lymphedema treatment plans. It's almost a metaphor for how lipedema patients get lost, because both the name and the symptoms get confused for lymphedema. There's no argument that Allen and Hines thought there was fluid edema when they first coined the term lipedema in 1940, but Dr. Bertsch argues it's time for a paradigm shift because that's an outdated and scientifically unsupported view in the modern day. Dr. Herbst pioneers ahead with more and more research into the fluid aspect of lipedema. Is that a waste of time? I would say not necessarily, because any research into the cause of lipedema would be useful, right? One problem, though, is when everyone can't even agree which patients qualify for the diagnosis, which may potentially skew the results of studies. Dr. Bertsch's group would only diagnose a patient with lipedema if they had disproportionate fat on their limbs and pain within the fat tissue. Dr. Herbst's group may still diagnose someone with lipedema if they have no pain. So that begs the question, if someone did have disproportionate fat but they have no pain, what does Dr. Bertsch and the ILA think they have?
Chapter 7, Differential Diagnosis.
I see you burying the lead there. I mean, I was hoping to get through the full hour, but we're on hour 2 here. The pseudoscience machine is very hard to fight. Yes, I fought it for many years. Winter C says, and then scientists complain that the general public gets it wrong. Well, yeah, because they're not writing for the general public, which is part of the problem. They're writing for peers, which is fine, but not like you left an image that's worth 1,000 words. Well, what happened? Winter sees, we scientists kneecap ourselves in our love for using inaccessible communication. Exactly. And then on top of it, we're taught to use fancy words for no reason. Put more jargon in your paper. I was literally told that. Put more jargon in your paper. Why? I don't want to put jargon in my paper. I want to be able to hand this paper to my mother and have her understand what she's reading. Why is this a problem? You nominate Bill Nye. I mean, well, what's his Neil deGrasse Tyson? I like him okay. He's fine. He's Sagan's heir, but Bill Nye is more. I don't know. He's not more anything. I just like him. All right, whatever. Critical thinking books. Have you heard about our Lord and Savior, critical thinking? Zine Cats. Yes, but I'm actually wrapping up, unfortunately. So, but you can go back and watch it and see the 19 million interruptions I have for it. But yes, the scientific community at large talks to the scientific community at large. They're not talking to the public, and that's why people misunderstand everything. So yes, Liz, yes, fighting it too, but honestly, we desperately need more science communicators who can devote their time to translating science. All right, well, we're completely off in a different direction now. There was a guy on Threads, but it made its way over to Blue Sky, who put up a tweet. I don't know what you fucking call him now, but he put up a post that was like, imagine getting a master's or a doctorate in your chosen field and then becoming a STEM communicator or STEM influencer or a science communicator. Like, that was the post, and he got roasted, rightfully so. Because that's the problem. That man is the problem. The problem is we do need STEM influencers and science communicators, people who actually know how to talk to people, who actually have the ability to talk to the lay public and make whatever you're looking at accessible. Colin is doing a fabulous job of it. And not knocking Colin. This is a beautiful video and I'm enjoying it a great deal. But imagine if the person giving us this in-depth breakdown was also a clinical research doctor. They would be able to translate and explain a lot of things that, I'm not a medical doctor. I would have a hard time with this too. So we are a snobbish bunch. Spoiler for replay. There are kittens, yes. We need Carl Sagan back. Not to be a dick, but Carl Sagan kind of predicted the situation we're in right now, so. Yes, we do need people trained in it. All of my science folk are just sitting over here bitching. It's amazing. Well, and that's the other thing that a bunch of people who were roasting him pointed out. A, there's no training. There's no formal training in science communication in any of the fields that I can think of. And B, those of us, and I do count myself in this category back on my other channel, those of us who choose to do science communication are doing it on the free. Like, nobody pays me. Nobody paid me to do any of that, right? So, and nobody's going to pay Liz if Liz decides to go do science communication. It's something that we have to, and Liz probably more than me, have to carve time out for in your busy schedule. And scientists are busy. So they've got to carve out time, make things accessible, and then find a platform to reach out to people on. And there's a lot to it. Is Colin basically my adopted nephew at this point? Maybe. I really do like Colin. I am very impressed by him, and I'm really happy that he decided to start a YouTube channel, because Colin is what I would hope. Colin is what I would like everybody to be. A critical thinker who is skeptical of everything and who is willing to spend, God knows, 6 months doing research on this topic to put together a 3.5-hour presentation to present to the rest of us so that we can understand it. I would just, if everybody was like this, we wouldn't have problems. Being able to communicate effectively to two vastly different groups is important. It is. And I will say that, like, my conference presentations after I got out of college, I purposefully dumbed them down because I wanted to present papers to the community at large the way I was going to talk to the people who I talked to on my YouTube channel. And the point of it was, this is how you should be talking. We shouldn't be writing these stupid fucking papers. Unfortunately, Bertsch's view is probably more reasonable, but hard to get funding for research as he's not selling anything. Well, Bertsch is from the UK, or he's from the other side of the pond where they actually value science still. Still, it will take time. That's kind of cool, knee sneaks. At uni, we had a STEM ambassador program that taught that. Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful. Yes, but he's in Germany. The little like button, the little like counter keeps going up. And every time it does, it change. Well, obviously it changes, but it catches my eye because it's a movement. Neil deGrasse Tyson is good at explaining stuff. Neil deGrasse Tyson was trained by Sagan. So, he's supposed to be the heir. I use Casual Geographic for my students a lot. I'll have to check that out, Liz. Shakespeare was thought of as dumb, but he was so effective in his writing methods because it appealed to everyone and everyone can understand. Yeah. Shit, people today can still understand it. You're in Scotland. He doesn't do research much anymore. He's trying to do, we're talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's trying to do the communicator part of it. I don't know exactly how successful he's being at it because I don't follow him on like the daily, but his what was the show? Cosmos. His work on Cosmos was pretty good. I don't know what kind of world you're talking about, Salem. No, you can't do everything. Yeah, Colin does need more. He's catching up. It didn't help his channel in the algorithm that he went dark for as long as he did, but that's YouTube. That's not Colin being bad at his job. All right, well, there is that too, Winter Seas. I was taught that if you can't explain complex things in simple terms, then you don't truly understand it. Right, exactly. Who is that? There's actually a named term for that. Fine. Anyway. All right. Thank you everybody who joined me for this. I will be watching the rest of this and we will be going over it just, you know, in the future. Just remember 4929. And then we'll pick up from there. Well, chapter 7. We're on chapter 7. So I don't know when we'll get to this. Probably next Thursday-ish. We'll get to it. And yeah, if you haven't watched the whole video, I highly recommend that you do. That should be the link to it. So go give it a watch. That's your homework assignment between now and the next time I go live. And that's all I've got for you guys, really. I really appreciated the conversation in the chat about, you know, science literacy and science communication. I appreciate that. Liz started it with her talk about charts. Psh. So, but yeah, if you've made it this far, put a tree, your pick tree in the comment section. I'm thinking of birch, but I don't think there's a birch tree exactly. Yep. So thank you again, everybody, and thank you for everybody showing up. I will talk to everybody later. Bye.